Did you know that Panda Express used to have a burrito on their menu? Because now that I know that, it's literally all I can think about. No hand scoot today. Yeah, that's right. In 2014, Panda Express started testing a burrito for the first time. The idea was simple. It's an entree, a veg, and a side, all wrapped inside a nice warm tortilla. And seeing as it's been tested a couple of times and it's never made it to the masses, I don't think I'll ever get to try it. So it looks like we're just making it at home.
I'll do it myself.
Now the contents of this burrito consist of three things: the famous super greens, the best side dish, chow mein, and the holy grail of Panda Express, the orange chicken. Now before we get started, I need to ask you a favor. If you've ever watched any of my videos and either enjoyed them or learned something from them, if you could just subscribe, it would mean the world to me. Subscribing and interacting with these videos is a totally free way to help support our channel. Our is in me and you, because without you, this channel wouldn't exist. So if you're not already subscribed, please consider doing so, and I promise to do everything in my power to continue providing videos to help you learn something new and enjoy your time in the kitchen. Now starting with our super greens, it's actually a super simple dish, and honestly something I didn't even realize was on the Panda Express menu until I started looking into this, because generally speaking, I avoid things that are vegetables and healthy. It's the truth. But for this recipe, all you're gonna need to do is just cut the florets off a head of broccoli, breaking those up into really whatever size you prefer. And then we can move all this over to a large bowl for organizational purposes. Now we'll take a head of cabbage and we'll just cut it down the center and then cut it in half. Because for this, we really only need about a quarter of it, but we will be using cabbage later on. And after you quarter it, make sure you cut out the core because it'll make it easier to cut later. We'll go ahead and remove that outer layer that's all kind of nasty and has been fondled by strangers in the grocery store. And then we'll just go ahead and cut this quarter into eighths, and then we'll just go ahead and dice those up nice and large. It doesn't have to be anything super specific, but you do want it all relatively the same size. Again, into our organizational bowl. And now for a vegetable I literally never cook with ever: kale. I don't know why people like kale. It's not for me, but you do you. Although in this it's pretty good, but it's like I would never be like, oh yeah, kale's my favorite, kale's delicious, you know? Yeah, I would never say that. But for this recipe, you are gonna need about 4 stalks of kale. Make sure you wash it. You can wash it before you cut it, you can wash it after you cut it, really whatever you prefer. And then you can do like me and you can cut them off of the stems, or you could rip them off and pull them off in such fashion. Ooh, trash can was closed. And then from here, we're just gonna go ahead and give it a nice rough chop. Make sure we've got good bite-sized pieces and no exuberantly large pieces of kale. And then this is an important part, we need to massage the kale because kale is extremely bitter. And so what we're gonna do here is just give it a nice massage to break down all that bitterness. I don't exactly know the science of it, but it works. And if you skip this part, then it's gonna suck. Sit down. And now after an uncomfortable minute of massaging weird lettuce, we're just gonna go ahead and move it to our bowl. Now the last little thing we need to cut up is just a few cloves of garlic. And by a few, I mean like 6. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. We're just gonna give it a nice rough chop, but we are going to keep it separate from the rest of our vegetables. In a little bowl. Now to cook our super greens, we're gonna be using a hot wok, but if you don't have access to a wok, that's totally fine. You can just use a regular pan. That's also really hot. In our case, we're heated up as high as this thing can go. We're about 475, but it has been preheating for about 5 minutes now. So we're up there on heat. We're gonna start by adding a couple tablespoons of neutral oil, making sure that's well spread around our cooking surface. Then in with our garlic. And we just wanna make sure we keep this moving for about 30 seconds just to get that fragrance going. Then we'll add in a couple tablespoons of Chinese light soy sauce and about 1.5 teaspoons of sugar. Make sure that's all nice and well incorporated. And then we'll go in with about a 1/2 cup of chicken stock or chicken broth, followed by all those amazingly delicious greens. Now from here, we're just gonna cover this up and we're gonna let this steam for about 5 minutes. You can lower down the heat if you need to. In our case, we're a little bit high, so we're gonna turn it down just a smidge, just so that way we don't evaporate everything too fast and we have enough time to cook everything thoroughly. And now that we are done steaming, our vegetables should be nice and green, and then we can just toss them around in our nicely reduced sauce. Ah! What do you mean I spilled while tossing in a wok? I am a wok expert. A wexpert. Come on. better. And then we can carefully move this over to whatever dish we so choose to serve it in. Actually, we're not serving this, we're putting it in a burrito. What am I thinking? But we still want it to look nice. Now for our chow mein, it starts with that little piece of lettuce. Nope, it's cabbage. That little piece of cabbage we have left over from earlier. We're going to again core out the center. And then this time, instead of doing large chunks, we're just gonna do large strips. So it's not quite shredded, but we do want a little bit of meat on there. But we also want it thin, like this. This is the best way to put it. Just look. This is what you want. Then of course into a bowl. Then we'll do the same treatment to about half of a yellow onion. Cutting off the top and the bottom, gently peeling back that outer layer of skin, and then we'll just give it a nice thick chop all the way around. You know what? My apologies. I was supposed to only do a quarter of an onion. I was looking at that like, that looks like a lot. Well, it is, because it was more than I was supposed to cut up. My bad, I'm not wasting it. And the last little bit of prep is just a couple stalks of celery. Make sure they're washed, of course. And then we'll just give these a nice thin chop all the way down. And then into our bowl. And now for our sauce, combine 2 tablespoons of Chinese light soy sauce, a tablespoon of Chinese dark soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of oyster sauce, about 2 teaspoons of brown sugar, and about half a teaspoon of white pepper. And then from here, you can just give this a rough mix. It doesn't have to be fully dissolved or anything. We're gonna cook it down. We just wanna make sure it's all incorporated-ish. Now to cook our chow mein, the first thing we're gonna wanna do is heat up our wok as hot as it can go. It's a common theme today. Again, you can also use regular pan if that's all you have. It'll still work just the same. In with a couple tablespoons of oil, and then from here, we're just gonna go ahead and add in our veg. Now we're not looking to cook our vegetables all the way through. We're really just looking to give them a nice little char, and then we're gonna go ahead and remove them. Give it about a good maybe minute to char on all the sides. It really depends more so on how hot your pan is. In my case, this thing gets pretty hot, so it's not gonna take me too long, but it really depends more so in your situation. Also, if you like your vegetables more cooked, that's totally fine too. Like, cook them more. But we're trying to do it like Panda, so we're just gonna give them a little bit of a char. Now, after about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and remove those. Make sure to get everything out of there. And now we can move on to our noodles, which today we're gonna be using Japanese yakisoba noodles, which I totally understand are not chow mein noodles, but they are extremely similar, and my grocery store only had the thicker lo mein style noodles, and I didn't want to use the thicker noodles because Panda Express has real thin noodles, so we went with these. Now, my noodles are already cooked and only require a little bit of oil and water to loosen them up, but definitely check your package directions to see what you need. I will say that if you do get chow mein noodles, then generally speaking, they're usually fully cooked and just need to be broken up, and so you'll probably have a very similar process. But we'll start with a couple tablespoons of oil, get that all nice and around. Then we'll lay in our noodle pellets and splash in a few tablespoons of water. Remember, that water is really just there to help us loosen our noodles, so that way we can toss them around in our sauce. Now, once those noodles are fully loosened up, we can go ahead and add in our sauce, give it a little mix, and then we're gonna go in, oops, he spilled. We're gonna go in around the edge of our wok. This just gives our sauce a chance to sear and get a little extra caramelization, a little extra flavor. And once that sauce is all nicely mixed and incorporated, we can go ahead and add back in all of those veggies. Then once you give these a nice toss and everything's all mixed, you're done. And since we put the other one in a nice bowl, we might as well place these in a nice bowl as well. Oh no, the bowl is too small. Legitness.
That was legitness. Yeah.
And now for what I believe is going to be the best part of this burrito, the orange chicken, which starts with about 1.5 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. Now you can absolutely do chicken breast, but they do chicken thighs, and quite honestly, chicken thighs are just gonna be better for this. But if you're a big chicken breast kind of person, then by all means, go chicken breast. Now we're gonna cut our chicken thighs into nice uniform bits that are roughly 3/4 of an inch squared. We don't really wanna go much bigger than that, because the thing is, when we batter this and then fry it, it's going to get even larger. And if we go too big on our chicken, then it's gonna be too much. The ratio is not gonna be right. And you wanna make sure that these pieces are nicely even, because if they're not, then they're not gonna cook evenly, and you're gonna have some pieces that are either undercooked and some that are perfectly cooked, or some that are overcooked and some that are perfectly cooked. Now, the way that Panda Express marinates and batters their chicken is really specific. It's the reason why it stays nice and crispy while also being covered in a sauce. And for the first step in this process, we need to make our marinade. Start by combining 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of white pepper, 1.5 teaspoons of sugar, 2 teaspoons of chicken bouillon powder, which in the actual recipe is like a dry egg egg powder, but I couldn't find it. So chicken bouillon powder. It's gonna do a similar thing. 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, a half cup of water, and 2 tablespoons of neutral oil. Then we can just whisk this together until it's all nicely combined. It should look something like this. And now we can just carefully move in all of our chicken pieces. Now, unfortunately, I do not have the resources that Panda Express has, because when they marinate their chicken, they actually throw it inside this large tumbler thing. It's kind of like one of those like rock tumbler things that you'd get as a kid, and then put rocks in it and then tumble for like a couple days and you get like nice smooth rocks out of. It's kind of like that, but like a lot slower. And I don't have one, and nor did I feel like buying a rock tumbler for this one thing. So we're not gonna do that. Instead, we're gonna be peasants, and we're just going to kind of zhuzh it around with our hands for a little bit, just like this. And then we're just gonna throw this into the fridge and let it marinate for at least 30 minutes. I got more Capri Suns. And now for step 2 of our battering process, our dry batter, which starts with a 1 cup to 1 cup ratio of cornstarch to potato starch. This is just gonna help us get extra crispy and extra light, as well as keep our outside batter attached to our chicken. So that way we don't end up with one of those awful battered chicken scenarios where you're like, oh, this is great, and then you take a bite and then the chicken falls out of the batter and then it sucks. I'm telling you, Panda Express knows what's up. Give this just a nice little whisk. Make sure it gets everywhere that you don't want it to go. And now we're just going to move each piece one by one individually, that's what 1 by 1 means, duh, into our dry batter. We'll make sure it's nice and evenly coated. Once it's nicely coated, we'll give it a nice toss in our finger prison to dust off any excess, and we'll just lay it on this sheet tray here. It is a long and slow process, but I promise you that it's worth it, because this chicken will be crispy forever. It'll be crispy after you eat it. It'll be crispy in your intestines. It'll be crispy on the way out, which now that I say it like that sounds awful. I'm gonna be doing this a while, so you might as well hit subscribe, comment, share this video with someone while you wait, you know? Step 3. Now we've done the marinade, we've done the dry batter, and now it is time for our wet batter, which consists of 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 cups of ice cold water, 2½ teaspoons of garlic powder, 2½ teaspoons of onion powder, and a ½ teaspoon of white pepper. Now we can just carefully whisk this all together until our batter is nice and silky. Now we want to make sure that we get out all of our clumps and that everything is nicely incorporated. And then once we've done that, the important part of our batter is that we actually keep it cold. So we're gonna place this into the fridge while we heat up our oil. I'm putting it in the fridge now. Now in a nice heavy bottom pot, we're just gonna go ahead and add in enough neutral oil to give us at least a couple inches from the bottom and a couple inches from the top. If you don't have enough oil in there, then when you add in your chicken, you're gonna drop that oil temperature down too low, and then it's all gonna be soggy. But if you have too much oil, then when you're frying things and things are splittling, you know, that from the top, then it's gonna go everywhere, it's gonna hurt, and it's gonna suck. So just right in the middle. And we're gonna bring it up to our first fry temp of 350 degrees. And now that our oil is up to temp, we can go ahead and do our final batter dredging. Of course, we will need a wire rack, a spider, and a glove. Now all we need to do is just go ahead and dip our chicken into our wet batter. Make sure to drip off all the excess, and then we'll just drop it into our 350 degree fry oil, and then we'll repeat with the rest of our pieces. Now once the chicken is in our fry oil, we're gonna go ahead and let it cook for about 5 minutes. Our pieces aren't very big, so they're not necessarily gonna take a long time to cook, but also we're going to fry them a second time afterwards to make them extra crunchy and finish the cook. Now once that 5 minutes is up, we're gonna go ahead and remove them and lay them to rest on a wire rack. At this point, they're not exactly golden brown and delicious. They're really more like pale and weird looking, but that's okay because we're gonna fry them again. But first we have to finish frying the rest of our chicken the first time. And now that we've successfully fried all of our chicken and also made a huge mess, we're gonna turn our oil up to 400 degrees and drop it in for a second fry. Now this process shouldn't take you very long. It's only about a minute to a minute and a half until it is completely golden and brown, because like I said, we cooked our chicken already. This time it is just to really lock in the crispiness and bring it that a little bit up, just a little bit. We're just doing this so that way the crispiness holds up in our sauce. Now the last thing we need to do before we wrap this all up in a tortilla is make our sauce, which starts off with an orange. In my case, this orange that I got from my dad's backyard. You don't have to get yours there, but if you'd like to, here's his address. I only made that joke just to scare my dad for a second. Gotcha. We're gonna carefully zest half of this orange, making sure that we are rotating as we pull down, because if you are just zesting in one spot, then odds are you are going to be just getting a lot of pith, and all that pith is just bitterness and not deliciousness. Your orange should look like this when you're done. Now we can go ahead and cut this orange in half. Oof. Maybe don't get your oranges from my dad's backyard. But what we are going to do before we squeeze this juice in there is we are just going to cut a little piece out. We're gonna see how sweet it is, because if it's really sweet, we're gonna add less sugar, but if it's not super sweet, we'll add more sugar. Not very sweet. Regardless, we juice both sides. This orange was lame. In complete fairness to my dad, I'm the one who picked out the orange, so technically it's not my dad's fault. I was the one picking the oranges off the tree, so technically it's on me. Then into that, we'll add a 1/4 cup of distilled white vinegar, 2 tablespoons sousing wine, 3 tablespoons Chinese light soy sauce, 1.5 teaspoons of sesame oil, 2 tablespoons of chili garlic paste, 1/2 cup of chicken broth, and then because the oranges that I grabbed were not the sweetest, we're gonna be adding in the full 1/2 cup of sugar. If yours is super sweet, then feel free to go with less sugar, but mine was not very sweet, so I'm gonna go with the full. But also don't hold back on the sugar if you feel like yours is like mediocrely sweet, like it's like, oh, it's good. I'm talking about like take off sugar if your orange is like super, super sweet. Panda Express orange chicken is sweet. It's like a sweet and soury chicken, so you need the sugar. Then we can just carefully whisk all this together. Make sure your whisk doesn't steal all of your orange zest like they like to do. And now we can finish up the last bit of our sauce, which is going to be some crushed garlic, roughly chopped. About 4 to 5 cloves worth, or whatever you're happy with. Some people like more garlic, some people like less. Those people are wrong, but you know, do you. I'm just kidding. If you don't like garlic, that's totally fine. Don't let some stranger on the internet bully you because you say you don't like garlic. Do you, and be proud of you, because I'm proud of you. And then we can just move all this garlic to a separate little container. And then we'll just grate in about 1 inch knobs worth of ginger. And now we can cook it all. Now I'm using a wok, but again, you can use whatever pan you want, or pot really. You just want something that's big enough to make your sauce, and then of course, add in your chicken. I'm gonna get this thing ripping hot. Ooh. I should probably plug it in. Good stuff. We're going high heat here, not quite as high as we were going with the vegetables and the chow mein, but still pretty hot. And once we are adequately preheated, we're gonna add in a couple tablespoons of neutral oil, making sure that is spread nice and evenly all around. And we'll first go in with that garlic and ginger. Keep that moving really fast. We only need about 30 seconds. We just want it nice and fragrant. Then from here, we're gonna go ahead and dump in all of our sauce. Beautiful. And then we'll just bring this up to a nice simmer. And then once we've got a nice simmer going, we're gonna slowly pour in our cornstarch slurry. And this is just 3 tablespoons of water and 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. I poured in about half of it because I wanna make sure we're not getting too thick here. Perfect. It should be nice and glossy, just like that. Now from here, I'm gonna go ahead and turn my heat off. And I'm just gonna go ahead and taste this and make sure we don't need to add any salt or sugar. Oh yeah, that's good. And now we can dump in all of our crispy chicken and do our best to toss it all together without making a huge mess. Oh yeah, look at that. That looks good. And now for the reason that we are all here, let's make a burrito. Starting with a nice warm tortilla, then a nice base of our chow mein, followed by our super greens, unfortunately, and we'll round it off with our orange chicken. Now we can just roll it and open it. I've been thinking about this a lot, and now that I'm here, I'm scared, but I'm doing this for you. Kind of a bummer. I think I overhyped it in my head. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and I really hope that you learned something. Here's a photo of my wife and I took in a photo booth the other day, and I'll see you next week. Still pretty good.